At first glance of that title, you're probably thinking, KarQ, what do you mean by movement tips? I mean, how hard could it be to just move your character? Well, you'd be surprised at how much more you can push the limits of certain heroes if you understand how to maximize their movement abilities along with other general movement tips that I'll go over. Cue the intro and let's get started. Hey, what's going on guys? My name is KarQ and let's jump into tip number 1, counter movement. Whenever you're pushed or knocked back in one direction, for the most part, the game will move you in a fixed distance. However, any movement input that you add to it can either further exaggerate this or minimize it. The easiest way to understand and see this concept is with a Lucio boop. Here is the fixed distance knockback on it. Now, if you add a movement input in the same direction as the boop, so you're moving backwards while he boops you forward from his perspective, you'll notice that you go extremely far. This is what I call exaggerated or accelerated movement, which I'll touch on in tip number 2. If you move in the opposite direction of the knockback, you would be doing what's called counter movement. Now, counter moving is critical to minimize any movement disruption by the enemy, which is very important on maps with holes or places where you can be knocked off. For example, if you're coming out as a team on Lijiang Tower Night Market and decide to move over the bridge as a team, keep an eye out for an enemy Pharah that's looking to use a concussive blast early on to knock you off. If you're on the bridge and see it coming in front of you, move forward and try your best to counter move it, or vice versa if she lands it behind you. I can't even tell you how many times this tip has saved me from falling off, so please apply this to your games. Tip number 2 is the opposite of counter movement, which I'll call accelerated movement, as I mentioned earlier. When expecting an enemy knockback of some sort, you can anticipate this and use it to your advantage. An example I've used in the past video with XQC is that we explained how if Soldier 76 jumps, then turns and sprints away as soon as Winston Leap lands on him, Soldier, or I guess any other hero really, can exaggerate that knockback of Winston's leap and propel himself out of his Tesla cannon range. If we go another layer deeper, Jane had noticed that Hydration of the LA Gladiators used the exaggerated movement technique with his abilities in one of his review sessions. To understand this play, you need to know that Pharah's rocket naturally does have a slight knockback effect. So what Hydration did on Pharah is instead of directly shooting a rocket here on Zenyatta, he shot to the right of him and comboed that slight knockback into his concussive blast to exaggerate the movement and push the Zenyatta off the map. And in Jane's words,
moving left trail rocket concussion. Oh my god, that's sick!
Now, the principle of accelerated movement also applies to abilities used on yourself, most commonly known as rocket jumping. So since Pharah's rockets, Soldier's helix, Bastion's ult, and Zarya's secondary fire all have a slight knockback effect, you can shoot your feet to boop yourself upwards a little and then combo that with a jump to create some distance, again known as rocket jumping. There's a ton of videos out there showcasing a bunch of rocket jump spots that I encourage you to search up if you're interested. Alright, tip number 3 is that moving forward is faster than moving backwards by a little bit. So what does that mean for you in your games? Well, if you're being chased down by a Winston or Reinhardt, for example, and they're already in range, you cannot outrun or escape it. However, if either of these heroes are just slightly out of range, they will catch up to you if you decide to move backwards. I do want to note that moving backwards is sometimes the correct play because you can fight back, but if you're already at, let's say, 50 HP and there's a health pack near you, I'd say turn around and run forward for it. Now, tip number 4, most movement abilities in this game can carry momentum. What this means is that you can go even further than you originally thought with many hero abilities. The general way to perform this momentum hopping is to hold or press your jump key at a very specific moment during the movement ability. This will vary by hero, so I'll point out a few of the very practical ones that I honestly recommend that you learn. Starting with tanks, we'll go with D.Va first. This one's pretty simple. As you use your booster jet, you should cancel it and then immediately press jump to give yourself a little bit of vertical height. This is practical because it allows you to start your cooldown a little bit earlier while still being able to travel in the air. For Wrecking Ball, as you swing with that fiery momentum, unlatch yourself and press your jump key immediately and you'll notice that you roll or fly farther depending if you're on the ground or in the air. Additionally, you can even do this to hop up on specific slopes and inclines on the map if you time that unlatched jump properly as soon as you make contact with the slope. For Winston, when you go for a leap, you can just hold your jump button down so that as soon as you land, you do a little extra momentum hop. This can be very practical because you can drop your bubble and then hop to the edge of it, which can allow you to immediately start bubble dancing with an enemy. For Reinhardt, when you charge, you can just hold your jump key again so that when you reach the end of your normal charge distance, you get that little momentum hop. There's nothing too practical about this besides being able to come out of spawn a little quicker, but it's not hard to do and doesn't really have any downsides, so just do this every time you charge out. Now onto the DPS heroes. Doomfist has so many little movement tricks and rollouts, it would be impossible to cover him in depth here. The most important momentum tip to know though is pressing your jump as soon as you use your rocket punch. This will give you so much extra distance at both low and high charge punches and is an essential mechanic to learn and use to play him effectively. Now with this knowledge, there are two more advanced mechanics that evolved from this momentum hopping trick. One is that if you time that jump cancellation from rocket punch on an inclined slope, you can propel yourself up vertically to get in unique spots or create new seismic slam angles. The other trick is that as soon as you press jump out of your rocket punch, you turn your character in a direction, left or right, and you can maneuver around corners to get out of spawn quicker or surprise enemies from yet another unique angle. I highly encourage you to search up some guides on this from great Doomfist players. For Widow, a normal hook looks like this. However, if you press jump just before you reach the end of the grappled area, it will cancel the hook and let you carry all that movement momentum and transform it to a hop or a bonus super jump. Now onto supports. Brigitte can shield bash jump by using shield bash, then pressing jump immediately on an inclined slope. I actually have a full video on a bunch of spots which should pop up on the top right of the video right now. Now onto Mercy. When using her Guardian Angel, you can press your jump key while flying to hop a ton of extra distance. This is an essential Mercy mechanic to improve the fluidity of your movements. Another movement trick is that when you want to fly to a teammate, press both your crouch and Guardian Angel button at the same time. Then cancel it with your jump key at any time and you will propel yourself vertically instead. Using crouch with Guardian Angel is the core mechanic because essentially what you're doing is you're lowering your character model below your teammate so that when you momentum cancel with the jump, you essentially traveled on an inclined path, and it follows the same principle as Hammond and Doomfist, where if you're on an inclined path, press jump to cancel and boom, you go super high and super vertical. This is dubbed as the Mercy Super Jump by the community and is a fantastic way to get yourself to high ground if you don't already have someone up there to fly to. With Moira's Fade ability, you can press jump near the end of it to create extra distance. You can also opt to jump early in the fade and hold the jump key down to do a little double hop, which also works in a similar way. Moira also possesses the ability to fade jump vertically on specific objects or slopes, and I have a video on that which you can watch. And finally with Lucio, every time you detach off a wall, press your jump key and look upwards to carry yourself further than normal. Additionally, if you want to build momentum and maximum speed as quickly as possible, you need to bounce off the wall to another wall by quickly pressing jump twice in quick succession. The first jump to attach and the second jump to quickly detach. Alright, and finally for movement tip number 5, I want to talk about strafing. Now you probably hear it all the time in other tip videos, yeah, spam AD, or left, right, and you'll be harder to hit. I want to say that yes, the principle of strafing is indeed left, right, but please do not take it too literally or do it too fast. I was watching a friend apply these tips and they were hardcore spamming these two keys as he was playing McCree, and doing this is actually garbage. You're hardly moving and the enemy doesn't really have to move their crosshairs. Instead, space it out a bit and randomize it. You don't have to go all out on it and don't panic. Move a little bit longer on the left, a short right, a short left, maybe a long right here, and you get the point. Alright, I think that about covers it all. Thank you to the Predator Training Room for partnering up with me on this video. Subscribe to their channel and check out the Training Room website for more Overwatch and other esports strategy guides and articles. Leave a comment down below if you learned something new. I appreciate all the feedback and it helps me improve the content. Take care, guys.